Here's the one video that no one was asking for, but it's the one you needed. I'm not only going to show you my in-game settings for controller and the graphics side of things if you're on PC, but I'm going to go a step further. Hey guys, Nightfall here, and today we have a little lull in the drama series that is XDefiant, but don't you worry, it'll be back in full swing tomorrow. But today, I finally get to make a video that a whopping 2 people have asked me for recently, and that's my settings. And just like in the intro, I'm going to do something that most creators don't do when they do one of these types of videos. Instead of just blindly giving you my settings for you to copy and paste, I'm going to explain what each of these settings does, if it's not already obvious, so you can use my settings as sort of a jumping off point to find the settings that best fit your gameplay style. Everyone's settings is always going to vary slightly, and if you're just copying someone else's settings, it could be holding you back a bit. But just a quick notice before we jump into all that, there was an update today. This update wasn't anything major, there was no patch notes to go with it. It was simply to deploy a fix to stop more than 4 players getting on one team in a ranked game. Nothing more, nothing less. I also dug up a tweet that was provided to me by somebody in the XDefiant Discord, where Mark stated we won't be getting any more patches or updates this season. So we're on a 2-week break from any kind of updates until the season 2 launch. So now let's get into the settings. This first section, while I am on PC, does apply to both console and PC, and that's the gameplay and UI settings. Obviously, here's where you're going to choose your input device. You can see here mine is set to controller, and the first actual setting is field of view. Normally, I would say most of these settings in here are all personal preference, but if you aren't playing on 120 field of view, you're automatically putting yourself at a disadvantage. Having this at 120 is the highest you can set it to, and it'll allow you to see more in your peripheral vision so you can spot the ratty campers before it's too late. Next up is the ADS field of view. Mine is set to consistent, which just means that when I ADS, it keeps the same field of view I just set above, so 120. If you have it set to the other option, which is independent, when you ADS, it'll revert back to whatever the default field of view is, which I believe is 90. Next is ADS behavior. This one is more of a personal preference than anything else, but I've always had this on hold in this game and every other game for that matter, meaning you just have to hold your trigger to maintain ADS. Set it to toggle if you'd like, but for me, that's just kind of weird. But no judgment if you do that. ADS sensitivity transition is another personal preference, and it refers to a setting we'll talk about a little later in this video. But basically, you can set it to instant, gradual, or after ADS, and this is just the point at which that sensitivity multiplier is applied. Mine is instant, but to be fair, I've never touched this, so you may want to experiment with this on your own a little bit in the firing range or even in an unranked match. The rest of these are all either on or off and mostly personal preference and don't really affect your play a whole ton, but these are what all of mine are set to. And a side note here that my scoreboard has always been set to hold, but I don't have to hold it to keep the scoreboard up. It seems like hold is actually toggle, and I wonder if toggle is actually hold, though I've never really messed with that, so I'm not sure. The next section in here is the user interface, and something that a lot of people aren't aware of is the HUD limits. If you select this, you can basically move where all of your HUD elements are, such as ammo, minimap, etc. The only thing you can't change that I wish they would implement here is the transparency of those elements. The rest of this section is all personal preference, and well, all of it's just visual changes, but here's my settings if you want them. And I would recommend at least having the enemy health bars set to on, if not both that and the damage numbers. And this will help when you're in a gunfight deciding whether or not it's a good one to take based on the situation. Now let's jump down to the controller settings and dive into these. My button and stick layout is set to default. This is simply because I use a controller with back buttons. I have the Turtle Beach Stealth Ultra, so I have all the stuff I would need mapped to those back buttons. If you don't have a controller with back buttons or paddles, you may want to look into changing some of these layouts. My aim assist is set to standard, with the strength being set to 0, and the follow is -2, and I'll tell you why it's -2. It's because with it at 0, it feels really weird where if you aim at someone and it's slightly off, like just over their head, it becomes almost impossible to move it down, which sounds like it would be the opposite, but that's just my experience, so I have it set to -2. For my aim response curve type, this is something a little more complex, and the options here are standard, linear, and reverse S-curve. Mine is set to reverse S-curve because while I wouldn't call myself a movement demon, like all these bunny hopping players you see moving around, I definitely do move around a lot and I rely on it quite a bit. So this specific response helps with that. Standard is going to be good for those who are new at FPS games where it reduces small movements. So if you're in a gunfight and you're a little nervous or jittery and you move the stick a tad bit, it might not pick that up and keep you on target. But this could also be a bad thing because if you're not actually already on target to begin with, it could keep you from moving that to the target, depending on how far it is. In this case, the middle option of linear will help with that, as it takes every single movement and applies it directly, doesn't reduce anything, doesn't accelerate anything. So again, this might be a setting you might want to play around with a few of them and just get a feel for how each one feels. But next up is sensitivity, and mine is currently set to 45 horizontal and 30 vertical. My vertical's been the same for quite some time now, but horizontal, as I get used to it, I keep going up by 5. And I think I'll probably end around 50 to 55, but right now I just recently upped it to 45, so I'm still getting used to that. The next two settings are the ones we mentioned briefly earlier about the ADS multiplier. This will multiply whatever your normal sensitivity is by whatever you set this number to whenever you ADS. And it's split between low and high, with high being anything scope above 8 times. So mostly your snipers. I have mine set to 0.65, so what that means is that when I ADS, it reduces my horizontal sensitivity down to 29 and vertical down to about 20. You can set this to numbers over 1, but I've never come across anyone who has their sensitivity when ADS be higher than what their normal sensitivity is set to. Kind of defeats the purpose of being able to fine tune your aim. Then we get into our dead zones, and this can help if you have any stick drift by moving these higher. My controller has Hall effect joysticks, so I don't have to worry about stick drift, but I do have my left stick set to 10 just because I don't like how touchy it is when I move around. Then we get acceleration speed multiplier, and this I haven't touched, but I will be playing around with this soon. This setting lets you look faster or exceed your normal sensitivity when you're pushing your stick in 100% in any direction. So basically giving you a small boost. I've stayed away from this because I haven't fully set on a horizontal sensitivity yet, so I'd recommend you get both your normal sensitivities dialed in to where you want them before messing with this. Now you could also lower this and make it slower when you're pushing the stick in 100% in one direction. Not sure why you would do that, but you could do it if you wanted. Then the last three settings here, inverting your inputs, meaning if you push your stick up, you look down, vice versa, and the same for left and right. And if you play with either of these, you're just insane and you need help. Then lastly is controller vibration. This was something I learned very early on in FPS games or any competitive game. Vibration is nice to get that feedback on I'm mantling or jumping or sliding or being shot at, but it's more of a hindrance than anything else. Vibrating your controller while in a gunfight is throwing your accuracy off, and it may only be very slight, but it could be the difference of winning or losing that fight. So if you've always played with this on, turn it off. It's going to feel really strange for a day or two, but you'll thank me later. And that's about it for controller settings. I hope this helps some of you understand some of these settings and improve at the game. And now is also a good reminder to make sure you log in to get your daily rewards. Today is the Battle Pass and Weapon XP boosters, and all you have to do is load up the game every day after 9 AM Eastern time. And unfortunately, if you missed logging in yesterday, you missed out on 100 free X coins. So I'll be reminding you all at the end of every video for as long as this is going on. So for those who watch my videos daily, I got you. Oddly enough, today I logged in around 10:30 AM and I don't have any weapon XP boosters, and I've had tons of battle pass boosters for so long that I don't even know how many I had or if I got any added today. So let me know in the comments if you logged in today and notice how many boosters you got, what lengths they are, and also how many of them you got and what type they were. Also a reminder, I'll be live this Friday as always, 8 PM Eastern time right here on YouTube playing some more XDefiant with you guys. And then the following day, Saturday, September 14th, we'll be doing our Stack Up charity stream with Matcha with awesome giveaways. So be sure to stop by, help support an awesome charity. But until then, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button, turn on notifications so you don't miss any uploads, and I'll catch you in either the comments or the next upload.